Well, here we are again, back here at the Holub Project North Sector, I guess, if you want to call it that. If you can see back there on the lift, we're going to do something to the old 66 Impala today. Look at that beautiful thing. Up there in the air. Just proud and tall. Anyway, if you can imagine why it'd be up in the air and what we're doing, I don't know. Here's a clue. There's a stack. We'll get to that here in a second. But you guys have probably really never seen the bottom side of this car. And I like to show you the bottom side of all the cars. So, you know, here she is. I did have to put a different panhard bar on it. The factory one was bent somehow. Probably somebody doing burnouts. Put some KYB shocks and struts on it. And these are actually wagon rear springs for when we have a little extra weight, variable spring weight. Pipes, X-pipe system, 2.5. There's the tranny. You've seen that get rebuilt. You did not see the engine get built because we didn't have a YouTube channel at the time. But this is still a four-wheel drum brake car. That may change at some point. New sway bar links, new drag link and stuff on it. All new brake hoses, all that kind of stuff. Some of that was done before I got it. And it's just, it's all original. Original pans, original everything. Got a little bit of cleanup to do. The poor thing, you know, she's a garage queen. Oh, little exhaust leak right there. Just a little guy. Didn't weld the mufflers in case I wanted to change those out at some point. But anyway, we're gonna address this 12 bolt. And what we got 355 gear set. Nope, that's the install kit. Slide that off to the side. We've got a 355 gear set. This has a 273 open diff in it right now. And that will obviously change. So we've got those. And we've got a Yukon Dura Grip Posi. Because in these cars, if you came from the factory with, I think it was 308 gear and under, it was one carrier. And then anything over 308 was a different carrier. Series 1 and Series 2, I think they called them. But we did one rear end and it was successful. So we're gonna do this one. And this car actually is going on sicksummer this year. We are doing sick ward. I don't know if we mentioned that or not. But me and the professor and his old lady Ange, we're all going together on sicksummer. We've got a bunch of buddies racing in it. We are not racing, but we're getting in this, the three of us, and we're doing sick ward. We're doing start to finish. So if anybody watching this or that subscribed or follows us, if you're gonna be at sicksummer, we'll be there. So we can meet you. Find us and say hi. So anyway, yeah, let's get going on this. We gotta take the rear tires off. Get this panhard bar out of the way. And get our rear axles out and take this cover off. I'm really curious what we're gonna find in here because it likes to catch Posi even though it's not a Posi rear end. I hope it's not as bad as that El Camino rear end was. I had to cut that carrier in half. So yeah, let me kind of get set up here and we'll get rolling. These are actually not the stock wheels anymore. These are Corvette 15 by 9, 15 by 8. I don't remember what they are. Yeah, I don't know. They were in really good shape and they had nice tires on them, so we bought them. I don't know if these will wiggle off here. Oh, come on, baby. Wow. For as many burnouts as I've done, those are in good shape. Poor things. Sorry, little guys. This car is very, very clean for a 66. She sat in storage a long, long time. Sky's getting a little dark. Might rain. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We gotta take the shock off? Yeah, that's alright. That can hang just like that. You guys see the whole rear end shift when I took that off there? It's impressive. And actually, we put all new body mounts in this car. And if you look at this gap here, you can barely get the finger in there. You can't get the finger on that side. And the body needs to shift that way. We had it shifted that way, but it likes to go back to where, see if you can see the old witness mark. So I might have to loosen those back up and see if I can shift it with it up here on the lift. All right, meow. Let's go ahead and start unbolting this cover. Also, if you didn't know how you could distinguish a 12-bolt rear end, you can just tell that by looking at it. It's got 12 bolts. I'm sure there's other ones. Most of these older GMs had 12 bolts in them. The old white C10 out there has got one. Maybe the whoopty right here helps out too. I don't know. I'm not a rear end expert. Oh, that's nasty. Too bad we didn't have smell-o-vision. It could be worse. It's still got a little bit of a gold color to it. Huh. These are pretty tough rear ends for the most part. They wouldn't quite fall apart as bad as that little 10-inch, 7.5-inch, or 7.5-inch 10 bolt. Jeepers, criminy. That poor thing, just put any horsepower to that, it just disintegrated. It didn't want nothing to do with it. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Gasket's got me held. There we go. Oh yeah, she got hot. Poor girl. I'll show you here in just a second. Although not nearly as bad as that El Camino rear end. See that center pin? She got a little warm. And the spider gears have a little bit of coloring. Not bad. Not bad at all. Don't see a bunch of metal down in there. Huh. 273 gears gotta go though. She's just got to go. I was just kind of spinning her around here, having a look-see. It's really not that bad. Not at all. I don't know what this little... There's a little plate right here. It's kind of hard to see. Or a spacer. See how it's broke? I'm not exactly sure what that's all about. But it isn't happy. Does this side have one? I don't see one. Alright, well, there's our bolt we need to get to. So let's spin her up here. And we'll take that bolt out of there so we can push the pin out. And then we can take our axles out. We got to get the drive shaft off as well. Alright, well, we got our pin out. And you can see that it's slightly tweaked. Pretty standard. I've got about a week and a half to get this done, so unless something absolutely catastrophic happens, should be okay. Oh, well, our pin might be a little bit welded in there. Starting to move. Yeah, she's a little tight. Went and got the biggest hammer out of the toolbox I could find. Let's work her back and forth a couple times here. See if I can get her moving. Oh boy. She's moving. That's we're doing a lot better than we did with the El Camino transmission so far. Shouldn't say that out loud. Probably just jinxed it. Oh yeah. Yeah, she was damaged. Can you see it? Of course you can. Yeah, she was damaged. I'll have to send her a picture of it to my buddy Dan. He does a lot of rear ends, and he's been telling me for a year or more, you better get that dang thing replaced. Or it's gonna let you down on the side of the highway. Well, here we are. Didn't let us down though. Hello.
Did I get you before your assholes and elbows and grease?
All right, well, our pin's a little stuck. Good news is she is moving. So if we can just keep her kind of going here, we should be in all right shape. Just kind of using that, and then stick the old pry bar back in here. There she goes. She's coming anyhow, little by little. She'll be coming around the mountain as she comes. Well, Jiminy Criminy. Jiminy Criminy, that's a new one. You guys ever heard that one? Neither have I. It's just stuck in that last spider gear. I think we can get the axles out anyway. Oh yeah. We'll just push those in and grab our C-clips with a magnet. I think the other one fell out. Yeah, I think it did. Whoop. And we'll sneak this side out. I tell you what, these 12 bolts have a substantially larger amount of heft to them than the little 10 bolt did. Make note, your flat side goes towards the carrier, your rounded corners go towards the outside of the diff. Okay, let's unbolt the carrier. Well, okay then. It's funny how it's always the last one, isn't it? Now when you take these out, I'm going to try to be really careful because I don't want to, I want to leave my shim packs intact on each side so I can measure what the shim packs were, if that makes sense. Because if you do that, then if you ever wanted to put this back in, you could probably look at what your shim packs were and use those to put it back in. Also, it would be definitely helpful when setting up the new one. Probably gonna have to pry this out. And I wouldn't think that that pinion gear still being in there would give us any issues. This side's trying to move. Thunder's rolling. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Okay. I think I've got all the shims on one side. Just drop the one on the other, that's all right. A lot of times these don't have a full shim pack. It's just, they've got a specific shim that they put in each side. Let me get cleaned up here and I'll grab you guys out and bring you over to the bench here. We'll just hose a little bit of this quick too, since we're over here quick. Always thought it's neat that, you know, these things can look like hell on the outside. And you open them up and they look fantastic. Especially after you clean them. Oh, it's starting to rain. Better go home a little bit early today. That was short-lived. Not even enough to get the parking lot wet. All right, here we are. Here's our shim from passenger side. Here's our racing shim from the driver's side. So we can measure these. They might actually have a measurement on them. I doubt it. But we can measure these and take note to know what side they went on. God, those bearings are nice, aren't they? They just don't make things the way they used to. All right, passenger side shim. 83 thousandths. Driver's side shim, 79 thousandths. And these races look really good. There's no pitting or anything in them. Hyatt LM60312, made in USA. I'd love to be able to just leave those bearings on that. I could. Absolutely could. There's nothing wrong with them at all. I'd run those things for another 20 years. All right, here's our new Posi unit. Like I said, it's a Yukon Dura Grip, and you can tell that because of the way that it is. It's got purple springs, clutch packs in it, has a Y right there for Yukon. These are nice rear ends. These clutches, well, these don't actually have a clutch, but they've got these springs that lock for the Posi. Here's your part number and stuff all stamped into it. Like I said, it's a different carrier than this one. So you can't take this gear and put it on this carrier and have it all fit and work. But we do need to use these bolts to bolt our new gear onto the new carrier. We got to get our bearings pressed on here and all that fun stuff. And what else do we have to do? There's not a ton to it. We got to pull that drive shaft and get our pinion gear out still too. Let's do that quick. I did want to make a quick note. Here's our new gear. If I can get it out of there. There we are. One of the big differences between the two different carriers is the gear thickness. How thick your gear is and how thick this flange is. So as you can see here, this is much thicker than this one is, and the depth of your gear is totally different too. This Yukon gear is actually not as deep as this one is. It's hard to tell on camera, but they're vastly different. All right, drive shaft's out. Let's see if my 3/4 inch impact will take this off here. Should. I tell you what, some of these Milwaukee tools, they're just downright impressive. There she is. Whew, got it. All right, there she is. Got the crush sleeve on it. That's a big son of a gun. Everything's bigger with 12 bolts, baby. Oh, and my new gears are GM gears. They're not Yukon gears. I think I misspoke. These are GM gears too, obviously. But yeah, the new ones are GM gears. So it should be pretty nice. I lied. We don't need those bolts. Our kit came with them. So, one last thing to do. Alright, one bearing successfully installed. Let's go for the other side. Forgot to put a dab of grease on it. Let me get that quick. Alright. I was going to use the press, but the old hobo freight press over there likes to get a little squirrely when you put a lot of pressure on it. If any of you guys have one of those, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The whole body contorts on it the second you put any pressure on it. So it kept trying to kick my bearing sideways. So we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way with an installer. Or a driver, I suppose. You want to call her that. And as long as you get it started out okay, you're normally in pretty good shape. All right, so you can bottom that out on the carrier, but it's got just a tickle more to go. So if you take this little guy off, you put your big guy on here. Something about like that. And then you take this guy, it fits perfectly around the inside of that bearing and on the outside of your carrier. There. Now she's seated. Beautiful. There's our bearings. I'm gonna clean up some of this crap. Try to keep our workspace somewhat cleaned up. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can get this gear on here. I've never actually installed a gear onto one of these. Getting pretty close. Put a couple of those in just for locating purposes. We should be able to use bolts to finish that off. And we're just going to run these in to get this gear seated, and then I'm probably going to put Loctite on the threads of these before I torque them. There we go. Gears installed. Mine is torquing and Loctite. Nice. Well, I think that's going to call it for tonight. We'll come back down probably tomorrow night. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to run all these bolts out, so I don't think that for whatever reason, forgetting to Loctite them and tighten them. You know what I mean? So we'll pull all these guys out. And we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, well, we're back. It's the next night. And we are going to talk about shimming the pinion. When you get these GM gears, I don't know if aftermarkets do it or not, but they mesh the gears, the new ring and pinion together. They work them in, and they already do the figuring for you. You see that 2.859 on the front of this pinion gear? That is the depth that that gear needs to be set at. And that is in relation to, come right up here, from this surface to the front of the pinion gear when the pinion is installed. So they already give you that. And normally what they tell you, most people will tell you, is that the best place to start is by removing the shim off of your old gear and putting that on the new gear. Pardon me, trying to walk through a disaster zone. To put on the new gear, and that's like a good place of reference to start from. And we've got a lot to do before we can put that in. We got to knock those old races out. We have to install our new races, and then we have to get mock-up bearings made, just like we did on the El Camino rear end, so that we don't have to press off and on the new bearing, also known as destroying it. So I'm going to look at the bearings that I have. I'm sure they're completely different, so we're probably going to have to take this bearing off and try not to destroy it to use as a setup bearing. And then we're also going to have to use our small pinion bearing, which would be this guy here, and grind out the inside of this one to make it a mock-up bearing as well. Okay, well, I didn't have any bearings that fit, so we are gonna have to take this one off, hopefully not destroy it. And I believe what we're gonna try to do is modify these edges on this, because they just dig into the cage. So if I can kind of grind those back a little bit, give us maybe a little bit more clearance. We got our shims out. Pay very close attention when you get these out and separate them. Make sure that there's not two stuck together. This is 18,000, 17, 13s, and those are all 10s. I measured them all out to see what I had. This bearing has been grinded out to where it will just slide right on to the pinion. And in order to do that, I just used one of these 80 grit sandpaper deals on the die grinder. I'm getting ready to swap that out. Fun fact for any of you guys that have one of these McGraw Harbor Freight deals, and you've always wondered, why'd they only give me one wrench? You know, how do I get that other one down there locked? Well, you just push this collar down, give her a twist. It comes up and locks, you know, and then you can take that off. Just in case, you know, nobody noticed that or saw it. It does have the little lock and unlock deals here. So if you didn't know what those were for, you do now. Tech tip of the day. We're gonna get our carbide bit. I took him out right here. And we're gonna use the carbide and try to shape these up. And then we'll try to get this bearing off, and I'll grind that bearing out so it slides on this new pinion, and we'll keep rolling. So I'll show you once I get, maybe if I get any results, otherwise I'll just ruin this and have to go buy another one. All right, well, I got my corners kind of ground out to help get it underneath the main part of the bearing. And we've got her standing on end here because the gear's too fat. But we're just going to try to hold some pressure on it and heat the bearing and see if we can get it to pop. This might be a long process, but we'll give her our best effort anyway. Just try to get her warmed up here and apply a little bit of more pressure at a time without knocking over my pedestals here. Just see what we can do. Well, we got a bit of movement there. Ouch. Come on, old girl. Great success. Got a metal sliver in my finger. Who's got a piece of duct tape so I can get it out? Don't touch that. Let it cool for a while. And we didn't ruin our cage either. Wonderful. Because we need that, baby. All right, as we were waiting, we knocked out our old races and put our new ones in. So those are in and done, ready to rock and or roll. Nice and new, fully seated in there. Left this little flashlight on laying here. No wonder why I have to replace the batteries every 20 minutes. That's why I have rechargeables. And here's our bearing that we just pressed off. You can tell we got her slightly warm. That's okay though, it's just a dummy bearing. So we're gonna sand out the center of that until she slips all the way down. We did put our new our shim. We're just gonna start with the shim off the old one, 22 thousandths, and kind of go from there. Just get our baseline measurements and see where we're at. We've got all these we can work with. We can put a combination of these together and get rid of this old one if we want to do that. So whatever we want to do. And then I also ground down the locking portion of the old nut so that I can just thread it off and on without dealing with the locking portion of it. So just a couple little tips there. Make things a little quicker and easier for you. This is only my second one, but I can tell you I've learned a lot doing the first one. Learning how to make my life just a tickle easier. And like I said, I'll show you this really super fast. This is cooled down enough that I can finally grab it. I ground down the ears right here on all four. You know, people make decent products that will work, you know, but don't be afraid to, you know, modify them a little bit. This is just the Harbor Freight one. These bolts could definitely be longer, but being that I took this out, I was able to get these just barely threaded. But yeah, so that worked out well. No damage to the bearing. Let me get this sanded out or ground out in the middle, and we'll start doing some checking. Okay, we got our bearings all set up here. So let me go ahead and put this guy through. Get our inner bearing put in there. I did put a little bit of gear lube on the pinion just to help slide the bearings on and off. Okay. So now we got to take measurements. Okay, so since we don't have a pinion depth tool, what we're going to do is we're going to put a flat edge across here, a straight edge, and we're going to measure down to this surface right here, and that is the center of the bearing carrier here, and that's where your measurement from here the front of the pinion gear's supposed to be taken from. But we don't have the tool to just set in here and measure straight down to this. So we're gonna put a straight edge across, measure down to this, and once we get that measurement, we'll zero the dial caliper, and then we'll bring it over here and we'll finish the measurement down to here, and that should give us what we're after. So let me set you up here and I'll show you. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get our pinion depth set. And basically, sorry about the lawnmower. Immediately when I turn the camera on, you know, that's how that works. Basically, so I cleaned the surface of this up, and I just got a piece of 1/8 inch steel, drilled a couple holes so I could bolt it up here, and then drilled these 2 holes so I could measure through this hole to this pad right here, just the bottom pad, and that is the center of where the bearing's gonna sit. And then you need to measure to the front of the pinion gear. So basically, if we take our dial caliper, and we're just using the little end deal, zero it out, make sure you're at 0, put her in this hole here, make sure it's flat, measure down to that surface, 1.931. Now we'll zero that, and we'll put it through this hole, make sure you're holding it flat, and measure down to the pinion. Whoops, hit the camera. Let's redo that. Let's redo that since I just bumped you guys. So we just got to take this back to 0. It doesn't really matter, it's still zeroed at our starting point. So anyway, it'll all come out the same. Put her in here, hold her flat. Good Lord. I swear to you, it's been quiet down here for 30 minutes. I turn the camera on and all hell breaks loose. Okay, pull her out, bumped you guys again. 2.8430. We need to be to 2.859. So the pinion needs to go back just a little bit, it's too far forward. So it needs to go back, what, 16 thousandths, if my math is correct. So we'll just loosen this plate, swing it down, take our pinion back out, measure our shims, and if we do math, 59 to 43, 16 thousandths, if we do it right, we should be pretty dang close the next time we check it. So let me redo this, and we'll come back and check it again. Okay, we took 16 thousandths out, and this is still zeroed from our measurement here. So we'll just drop her back in here. .857, and we need 2.859. That's within 2 thousandths. So that actually, the spec is within 2 thousandths of what that says. We're within, well, we're right at 2 thousandths of an inch. So we'll double check it, but we might call that pretty good. I don't know that I can get 1 to 2 thousandths. Well, that was a little different. This isn't the most ideal way to do this, but if you don't have the special tool, this way will get you pretty dang close. 5, 6.5. I mean, we're pretty consistently do another one. 859, that's the number we're going for. We're within 2,000ths each time we measure it. So we're gonna call that good. We're gonna lock that in. I just bumped it bringing it up here, but you guys saw it was 259. We'll measure it one last time to verify. And actually, that ended up being the original shim that was in this. So, yep, we're okay. We should be good. So we're gonna call that good there on this, on pinion depth. And like I said, that was the original shim that was in this. So got lucky. That's a good starting point anyway. So we'll move on from there. All right, I'd like to point out the new bearing on this side's in and the seal is on, but they made 2 of these seals. One of them was for a car, one of them was for a truck. The depth of the seal is different between the two, and they don't make the car one anymore. So what you got to do is leave this about 1/8 of an inch out, 125 thousandths of an inch from being fully mated, because if you don't, it'll pinch your bearing tight in here. This bearing should have some free floating in it, and it also won't seal on your yoke either. It'll sit in the wrong place on your yoke and you'll be dumping fluid all over the place. So if you're having a problem with your rear diff leaking at the yoke, and you keep buying new seals and putting them in and it's still leaking, it's because you're putting them in too deep. They make them only for the truck style now and not the car. So if you don't have like a spacer or something you can use, you can just go little bits at a time and use a dial caliper and just measure in between here, or you can make like a little 1/8 inch spacer or something to put in there. Yeah, that's why it won't seal correctly. All right, the bearing is on, and all I did was threw this in the oven 450 degrees for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Put a little grease on your shaft first, make it slick, and she'll slide right on. There's our crush sleeve. Put that on there, and then let's go throw this thing in. All right, slip this guy through. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any threads started on that guy. I might have to give him a couple bumps here. Until you can get your nut on there. There we go. Got there in there now. All right. It's just that inner bearing that kind of is like press fit, and you'll run into this as well. All right, now I should have probably brought a pipe wrench down. I didn't. I may have to run home and get a pipe wrench to put on this yoke so I can hold it. Let me do that quick and I'll be right back. Okie dokie. We got Grandma here. I think it's Grandma. I can't remember if the 24-inch is Grandma or if the 24-inch is Grandpa. The 36-inch is also the other mate. And we got a torque wrench on here just to kind of keep an eye on where we're at. I'm gonna tighten this up just a tickle. And we'll start tightening this thing in to get rid of the slop. And it'll press that smaller bearing on. And then we got to crush that sleeve. And you're looking for 25 to 30 inch-pounds of rotational torque. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a minute. Just keep going on this here until our bearing's snug. Shouldn't be too far off. There we go. Still a little play in them. Yep. It's going to take a whole lot more than 150 foot-pounds. Believe you me. That's 150 there. And we're not even tight on the bearing yet. How about now? No. And you can use anything you want to post your back hold up against. Let me see. Let's see if I can get it. Maybe up in here to hold for us. We'll just brace it on the floor up here. Still got a lot of bearing play. So we'll keep going. It takes quite a bit, if you haven't noticed. And if you're doing this on your back on jack stands, try not to pull the car off the jack stands. Have maybe a second person there or some sort of other means of protection so that you don't pull your car off the jack stand and end up in the local newspaper. Okay, the bearing play is taken out of it. I can tell you that's still not even close to 25 to 30 inch-pounds of rotational, so we'll give it a little pinch here. That's fairly tight there. Let's see what we got. And this, by the way, is when you need to adapt down to a little guy. That's about 12, 10. So basically, this little guy here's got a scale on it. And when you turn it, it's showing you what inch pounds. So we got to take it in a little more. All right, there we go. It's right about 25. Should be good. Should be good there. All right, now we can move on to the next step. Okay, let's get our ring gear bolted on here. It's got blue Loctite. Gonna put a little bit on the threads. And then I believe these are like 60 foot-pounds, I think, for torque spec on these. So we'll have to drop this guy in the vise probably, and to hold it while we torque. And then we can get this guy in and see where we're at with everything. If our pinion depth is set right and we get the backlash on this set right, I think it's 7 to 9 thousandths on backlash, then we can check our gear pattern, get our backlash set, and then check our pattern on the gears. See how those look. So I'm going to get this all torqued in, and we'll move on with our day. All right, that's all done. So now we got to figure out what we're going to do for shims on this. We can try our originals and see if it'll go in with those. And if it don't, then we've got to make our own shim packs. Okay, well, I couldn't get it to fit with the original shims, so we're going to take 10 thousandths out of this side and see if we can get it set in there with that. And if we can, then we'll see what our backlash is, and we'll kind of know where to go from there. Hopefully. I am by no means an expert at this. I've only done one other one. So we're all learning together on all this stuff. It's great. It's great. Everybody pushed into their homes here. Okay, we got these snugged up. We've got our little dial indicator on here. And we just started on the 2 just because it was closest to the deal. But when you set this up, you want to kind of hold back on the gears so that it's not like in between your lash, if that makes sense. So we got it right on the 2. So it looks like we've got 8 thousandths backlash right now. So we could tighten that up maybe a little bit if I have like a 5 thousandths shim over there or something like that maybe. So let me go see, I'm gonna go through my shim pack and see what I've got that I can add to this side. I'm not going to mess with this side. We always want this side nice and tight. We're going to just work on this side here, and then we'll see what our pattern looks like. And then we'll see if we can put like a 10 thousandths in there for a bearing preload, and if our pattern's good, we're set to roll. Okay, so I actually just looked up the spec, and the spec is 7 to 9 thousandths. 8 thousandths is right in the middle, and I took 10 thousandths out. So if we can get that 10 thousandths back in, that'll set our preload, which would basically mean just going back to the factory shim. So we may end up trying that. I'm gonna check, see what our gears look like here with some paint, and then we might throw that other shim back in. Probably have to knock it in because it's going to be tight. And then we'll recheck our paint again. And if it's good, we're set. All right, well, I've got lots of marking compound. I bought some, and then I have some from the last differential I did. Have some from the last gear or bearing set that I bought. So we're gonna try to use this old one here. And just as before, paint our teeth all up. Like old Bob Ross here, you know, happy little teeth. Although I don't think you want your teeth to be yellow. Roll this down and paint the back sides of them. That'd be really slick if this pattern looked nice. I'm gonna have to get on the line and look at what's acceptable and what's not. I don't remember. I mean, I do, but I like to have a picture in front of me to look at. All right, let me get out a chart and have a peek. You guys probably watching already know if it's bad or good. Not this guy. I was looking at the charts. It looks like depth is okay. Backlash might be a little bit loose. So we're gonna try to add, I have a 7,000 shim that I'm gonna try to add on this side and see what that does to this. So let me pull this apart and I'll get that shim added in, and then we'll check it again. All right, here's 6,000ths backlash. It doesn't look that bad, really. Coast side, drive side. That may be as good as we're gonna get her. We've got our backlash set to what the ring gear wants, and we've got our pinion depth set to what that wanted. Shoot, I don't know. All right, well, I spent some time dinking around, changed up a few things. There's our final assembly. Bearing caps are torqued. I think that should be okay. So we gotta take this bolt out, pop our pin, get our axles in with our C-clips, and then we can put the cover on and fill it with fluid. I think we should be all right. This is all torqued, pinion's all set, should be good to go. All right, well, I just wrapped her up real quick. You guys seen me take it apart, so there wasn't much to show going back together. Put the C-clips back in the axles and put the pin in and throw the tires on, put the drive shaft back in quick. Got the panhard bar back on there. Started putting fluid in it, 5W30. I think that's what they recommend. Just kidding. It's non-synthetic GL5 8090. The old Mystic. I just put it in a quart bottle to make it easier to pump in there. but I don't have any additive, so I didn't get to finish putting fluid in it. So we'll put fluid in it tomorrow and take it for a test drive. I think break-in's like a 20-minute drive or something, and then let it cool back down to ambient temp, and then go do Posi burnouts. So I did want to show you quick. Watch this. Both tires spin the same way now. Oh, that's wonderful. So anyway, we're gonna wrap tonight. I got a retirement party to go to, and see you Saturday morning, tomorrow morning. All right, she's down on her paws. Additive in the rear diff. Everything's topped off. Quick change the oil. And I believe it's time for a test drive. She's a good looking unit. All right, I'm gonna back her out, and we'll go for a little ride. She's filthy. Needs a bath, poor girl. Waffle breakfast this morning at the fire station. Normally hit that up. Probably should. So far so good. Made it about 2 blocks. Don't hear anything crazy yet. Speedometer is not even close, so that's pretty neat. Oh, old Antonio's. Best Mexican in town. Only Mexican in town. Big weekend up here. All kinds of stuff going on. Citywide garage sales. You can go to the car wash, get yourself a new t-shirt. It's even quiet coasting, which is good. I better get out a speedometer, huh? See how fast I'm going? Yep, let's do that. So we're doing 70 on the speedo, 57 on the phone, and 2600 RPM. That ain't too bad. Not bad at all. It's a totally different car over that 273 gear. I ain't mad at it. Rear end's pretty quiet. My buddy Schuler. It definitely feels a little more peppy. Nice. We'll pull over up here and check for leaks. Make Make sure we're not dumping fluid out of that seal. And I don't know, drive it a little bit longer, and then I guess we gotta park it and let it cool back off. Well, let's have a look here. She looks pretty dry up there. I don't see nothing. I don't see any leaks anywhere. Let's look from this side. Ouch, that's a rock in the knee. Looks good to me. We're gonna run it. Ouch. We're gonna run it. Well, we decided to extend our ride a little bit. Old Rich Galen's up there in the Lone 57. So far, so good. And it's a beautiful day for a ride anyway. 10 o'clock in the morning. A little back road ride. We're doing a bunch of work to this house. Trying to get the miles on her, get her broke in here. Aren't they just lovely? Nice crop ground gone. Anyway, we've put, I don't know, 40 miles on it probably, something like that. And you know, I'm gonna give her a good 80-100 miles probably before I try to do a burnout or anything. Don't want to screw it up, you know, before we leave for sicksummer. So we'll just let her keep on rolling. But I think that's where we're going to wrap this one. Hey, if you're still here, appreciate you. Thanks for watching, as always. Like, share, give us a subscription if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next one. We'll try to do some recording at sicksummer as well, so going across the old bridge. All right, well, we'll see you in the next one. Have a great weekend.